Hi, my name is Jakob Munck. Welcome to this short video where I'm going to present you for something very, very beautiful. Well, I'm trying to be modest because I'm not among the persons that I'm going to show you. I know I'm not very beautiful, but I have a top icon on my Facebook page. And I would like you to go to my Facebook page. I'll give you the link below. And on my Facebook page, you will see a lot of persons. And these persons are my personal heroes. And I want to present you for my personal heroes. I don't have the time to speak extended about all of them because this will only be a short presentation. But I hope in the future I'll have the time to go in more details about some of them. Because these persons, they have been the person who has formed some part of the European culture and some part of the international culture. And these persons, they have been influencing my mind and the mind of millions of other people in this world. To me, these persons represent what is good in this world. What is good in this world. And what is good is peace, love, and harmony, and personal kindness, spirituality, wisdom, truth, and economical progress. I think that is the basic values that I have in my mind when I've elected these persons. Well, quite a lot of them have written books that I've read too, that has been a great inspiration. Some of them has not written any books, at least not books that I have read. So I only know them from the press, from pictures, from story, from history, because many of these persons are historical persons. Most of them, I'm afraid, are not living anymore, but others are living. And, we are all going to die before or later. And life is all about making some kind of footprint before you leave this world. And I would like the footprint that I leave to be a footprint that can make me being remembered as a friend of peace, a friend of spirituality, of love, about nations working peacefully together, a friend of art, a friend of creativity, a friend of communication between nations, between religions, and between races. So I think that these persons here are the best inspiration I can find when I try to find, I would say, a place to stand in a very confused world. And let me start from the list here. I've divided the persons up in nationalities. And the first person I'll show you is Munck. Actually, Munck is my grandfather. He is my great inspiration because he gave his life in the fight against fascism during the war. He was tortured for 5 weeks and beheaded afterwards in 1943 in what is today called Indonesia. He was fighting against the Japanese fascists, and he was taken prisoner and killed. He gave his life in the fight for freedom, in the fight for prosperity, in the fight for everything that is good. And I'm so proud of being the grandson of this great man. I also have one other person being a Dane, and this is Georg Brandes. Georg Brandes is dead now. He was an author. He wrote a lot of books. He was a Jew, and he had a fight against the nationalists and the Lutherans, the so-called Christians. I would say the false Christians. We have a lot of false Christians called Lutherans in Denmark. And Georg Brandes, he fought against the Lutherans. Well, he wrote a lot of books about many subjects. He was a very learned person. He was a professor in the end of his life. That was a kind of honorary title he got. And of course, he was very much against Nazism, racism, and everything that is bad, that is always supported by Lutheranist religion. So I'm ashamed of being a Dane when I read the Danish constitution saying that we have a religious state here in Denmark supporting. Me personally, I'm a Catholic. I have to support with my money the Lutheran Church. That is like Iran, just in a Lutheran way. I'm ashamed of that. But Georg Brandes, he was a fighter against Lutheranism and against nationalism, against everything that is bad in my country. But at the same time, he was a devoted Dane, just like myself. I like to live in Denmark, and I know that Denmark could be a peaceful and nice country, just like Georg Brandes tried to make it with all his books and his discussions and debates all his life. Well, now we're leaving Denmark, we are going to Italy. And I have two persons from Italy. One is Pope Francis. He is living now. The best Pope we have had in my lifetime. As I told you, I'm a Catholic. I'm very interested in the Pope. I think he's a very important man, not only for the world as a whole, because he has some kind of political influence. He can have a political influence if politicians want him to have this influence. And this is a good idea, because the Pope is a very wise man. And the Pope we have now, he's a liberal Pope. He's not concentrating the spiritual force of the Catholic Church to some moral details that has no real importance in the modern world. It is, in my opinion, just waste of time to discuss contraception, to discuss abortion, to discuss the laws of marriage. I think it's okay that the Catholic Church has its own standpoints on these issues, but it's not the way to change the world. What we have problems with in this world is war, starvation, disease, hunger. That is the problems of this world. And I believe that our present Pope is interested in making a contribution and using the Church as an instrument to make a contribution to change the world for the better. And that is very important, because there are 1.2 billion Catholics in the world. And this is the biggest organized spiritual force in the Christian world, and this is very important. So the Pope is an important man. I respect him. He comes from Argentine. He is not an Italian, and that is very good, because we have had so many Italian popes during the last 2,000 years. Too many. I want the Church to show that we are international. I would prefer if Pope Francis came from Africa or from Asia if he was a black man or Chinese man. But okay, he's an Argentinian, and now he's living in Italy, and I like him very much. Second of my heroes from Italy is Saint Francis of Assisi. Well, you know, the Pope, he has taken his name from Saint Francis. So when I'm an admirer of the Pope, of course, I'm also an admirer of Saint Francis. I think Saint Francis is one of the great saints in the church, which I'm very proud to be a part of. Saint Francis, he saw the spirituality and the salvation of being totally poor, of having nothing, owning nothing, exactly like Jesus told his apostles. Give everything you own to the poor and come on and follow me. That was the advice that Jesus Christ gave his apostles. And exactly that is what Saint Francis did. He was living in the 12th century, that's 800 years ago, but the ideals that he showed us, they are still very, very important to me and probably to a lot of other peoples in this world. I think Saint Francis, he showed what is true. I know, me, Jakob Munck, I'm not a poor person. I'm not living up to the standards of Saint Francis. I'm not. But I'm trying to do the best my own way. And I admire the ideals that Saint Francis put up. And Saint Francis, he followed himself. And now we're going from Italy to Sweden. And I'm so proud to present first of all a person that I'm a friend with on Facebook. He's living today. He's called Jan Øberg. Actually, he was born in Denmark. I think he's even educated in Denmark. He's a sociologist. But he is working in the field of international peace for many, many years. I think maybe he's a student of Johan Galtung. And Johan Galtung I have on my top icon too. He's a Norwegian sociologist that has been working his whole life to find models for making peaceful agreement between nations, between tribes, between organizations, between every organized force being in conflict with another organized force. You know, the whole world history is the history of wars, of conflicts. And today there are wars in Middle East, in Africa, and a lot of other places. But these wars, they could all have been avoided if the people working with the peace sociology, with the peace movement, and that is, for example, Jan Øberg and Johan Galtung. They are two persons, but they have been working in this field for many, many years. So they are veterans. They really know what they are talking about. And I've heard Jan Øberg talk to a lot of meetings, demonstrations, and other events here in Copenhagen. He's a brilliant speaker, but unfortunately it's a few years since I heard him the last time, because the movement for peace here in Copenhagen is very small and very weak. But I hope to see Jan Øberg again. He is one of my heroes. He is a highly intelligent man and he has a very high morality. I hope that his ideas and the ideas of Johan Galtung, they are quite connected, these two persons. They will have much, much more influence a lot of places where conflict is destroying nations. For example, now in Ukraine, what is the idea that the Ukrainian junta supported and financed by USA. They are killing the Russians in Ukraine. The Russians that have been living in Ukraine for centuries. Why don't these people have the right to live in Ukraine, to have their own independent part of Ukraine? Why shouldn't that be allowed? Well, I can give you the answer. Because the Americans, they try to make conflict and to make war, to sell weapons and to force Russia to arm and to use money to buy more arms. But I can tell you, Ukrainian friends, you could have a good society if you want. Right now, you're getting poorer and poorer. Your country is a fascist state. It's a criminal state. I hope you'll never get entrance to Europe. I'm quite sure you'll never get entrance to Europe. We don't want any more criminals here in Europe, so we don't want you to come here. You will never be a part of the European Union, but you have to make peace with your own population, the Russians. And if you don't know how to do it, and I'm afraid you don't know how to do it, try to call Johan Galtung, he's living in Norway. Try to call Jan Öberg, he's living in Sweden. Maybe they have other friends that can help. These can be negotiators for you to find a new peace agreement with your own enemies. That is the only hope for Ukraine. If you don't do like that, I hope you go to hell. Now we move from Norway to Germany. In Germany we have Martin Heidegger, the brilliant philosopher that died in the mid of the 50s. Well, Martin Heidegger, I know in the 30s for a few years he was supporting Adolf Hitler. But it's not like a political figure I admire Martin Heidegger. It's as a philosopher. Because Martin Heidegger, he fought his whole life against the Lutheran ideas of the spellbound will. You know, Lutheranism in North Germany, in Scandinavia, has as the main point that you don't have a free will. You are an evil person. You are like a machine, like a robot. This is the idea, the spiritual idea that runs the northern part of Germany. That is where Angela Merkel comes from. And it runs Scandinavia too. But you've been against this for your whole life. You have been trying in a philosophical way to prove the existence of the free will. You have tried to prove that man is a part of nature, and all part of nature has a spiritual existence and a free will. That is the main reason in your philosophy as I understand it. I don't want here to try to explain it more in details because it's rather complicated. It's said that Martin Heidegger's philosophy is so complicated that it is impossible to translate, even to translate to German. Well, this was a joke, because Martin Heidegger, as I told you, he was a German himself, but it's rather difficult to understand his writings, but I think I understand the basic ideas, and I agree with Martin Heidegger. We want a world where quality of life is decided by what you do, not by if you believe in the Bible or you believe in the Quran or you believe in some other book, but in what you do. The quality of your life, your free will, it will be shown in your behavior. So your behavior is the key to your personality. There is also another German I want to mention, and he is called Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was one of the only Protestant theologians, what do you call it in German? Theologist, one of the only Protestant theologians that went against Adolf Hitler. Most of the Protestant theologians, they supported Adolf Hitler. But he went against Adolf Hitler and he was executed for the same reason. Just as my grandfather was executed. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer, I'm not quite sure. I believe he was hanged. My grandfather was beheaded. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he was hanged, and I think it was 1944 in Germany. He developed the theology, the anti-Lutheran theology, that you can't be saved just by believing in the Bible. That's the Lutheran phrase you'll hear in every Lutheran church. You'll be saved by faith and faith alone. That's a quote from Paulus. But it's totally nonsense the way the Lutheran interpret it, because not Paulus and not any other theologians, historical theologians, has ever said that it has no effect what you are doing. Morality is not only a question of what you believe, if you believe in the Bible or you believe in something else. Morality is a question of what you do. The whole Reformation was a fight about this question. The Lutheran wanted to make a Europe where you can act exactly like you want, because they want the secular rulers, the kings, and the aristocrats of Europe to be the new popes in the Protestant Europe. I'm lucky that they only succeeded in the north of Europe, but because this makes the world a much worse place to be, because that means that morality has no influence in the real world if you believe the way that Dietrich Bonhoeffer showed the Lutherans was very false. Because why didn't the Lutherans go against Adolf Hitler? Because they said Christianity had nothing to do with morality. We can kill the Jews, we can do everything, kill the Russians, kill everyone. It's no problem, because God, He doesn't care about what we are doing in this world as long as we believe in the Bible. Well, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he wrote several times in his articles and book, this is pure nonsense, this is Satanism, and he made resistance against Adolf Hitler himself, and therefore he was executed. So I admire Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I think he's a saint. Actually, I think the Pope in Rome, he should say Dietrich Bonhoeffer is also a Catholic saint. I know Dietrich Bonhoeffer was not a Catholic, he was a Protestant, but his way of thinking was Catholic. So therefore I admire him, and I think he should be leveled up, raised to the level of a saint also in the official theology of the Catholic Church. And now I'll end up this explaining about my heroes. I've still half of my heroes left back, but I'll explain you about these heroes in another video, because I don't want this to take too long time. So thank you for listening. I hope that my heroes will be your heroes too, and each of my heroes you can put in the search field of Google and find out more detailed what have they done, what was their way of believing, what was their ideals. And many of them has written excellent books. You should read these books. Some of them are still living. You should go and visit them, write to them. Some of them you can find on Facebook. You should befriend them on Facebook. So these saints, these heroes, they are the best people we have and we have had in this world. Okay, thank you for listening. Goodbye.